Hey, everybody, it's Reggie with Lawyer Interviews. And today I'm so excited. We are joined by Jacob Sapochnick, who is out of San Diego, and he is the San Diego immigration law attorney. Hi, Jacob.
Thanks, Reggie. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. And you and I have known each other for a little bit because we met on a fun little app called TikTok.
That's true. And we're still on it.
Yes, yes. And I love your content on social media, both Instagram and TikTok, because you deal with a lot of very relevant and real issues regarding immigration, not just in the US, but internationally. And I'd love you to give a little background as to how you became an attorney and interested in immigration.
So I'm originally from Israel. So I came to the United States to pursue my master's in law, LLM. I just was supposed to be here for a couple of years to finish my education. And while I was doing my master's, I really enjoyed just the way the legal system is working in the United States. I enjoy the way lawyers and lawyers can be also business people. And I came to the United States. I mean, I'm from Israel, but I went to law school in England. I studied there for 4 years, and I was going to practice there as well. But it's just such a difference between the way people practice law in the UK and here. It's more formal over there. I love the fact that it was so just like you feel like you're an entrepreneur in a way, which is
Right.
kind of what I am in a way. And so I've decided to stay here. So after finishing my law school education, I found a law firm. They gave me an internship. I was going to get into IP law, focus on internet and music rights, and that was my thesis as well. But once I was working at the firm, and they had a division that was focused on immigration as well, I kind of learned more about different things, and the fact that it was a federal practice, I liked it because we had clients from all over the U.S. And when I was able to leave that firm and get my green card, I decided to start my own firm to focus just on immigration because I was an immigrant and I already kind of knew the practice, and I liked the fact that I could be anywhere. I didn't know if I wanted to be in San Diego or go to the East Coast. So that's kind of how it started in immigration because I had this exposure, and I'm in private practice since 2004.
Yes, absolutely. Well, wonderful. And for our viewers too, letting them know too how much immigration law has changed over the past. I mean, since
Right.
'04, almost, we're almost at 20 years. I mean, what are the
Yeah.
biggest changes you've seen to immigration law?
So I think the biggest change is the fact that it's more difficult for people. Well, not just more difficult. There is almost like a push from the government to not encourage people to come here. And
Hmm.
so when I started, it was very easy to get certain visas. For example, H-1B, which is the common work visa, there was no limit. There was no cap on that visa when I started. Then the cap came back. It was we had less denials. We've seen less people get rejected, and I feel like in the past few years, it's almost like a struggle. It's like we are, every time you face the government, it's almost like trying to trick your client, or they're trying to get people denied. So it's been a rough, I would say, 4 or 5 years for immigration attorneys, just because our tools are limited. And especially during
Right.
the Trump administration, there was just so many things that we couldn't do anymore. And now,
Right.
obviously we have more options, but still, even this administration is not being as easy as we expected. People still get deported, people still get denied. It's just not easy. So I
Right.
think I think that we all expected to see some sort of immigration reform, even in a small scale, like legalize DACA, give people
Right.
temporary protected status, give them the green cards. This didn't happen, even under Biden.
Right.
So
And I would
yeah.
love to let our viewers know too that might not be as familiar with the law exactly what DACA is and why it's important.
So DACA is a program that started during the Obama administration in 2012. It essentially gives work permits and the right to stay for those children that were brought in to the United States illegally by their parents. So most
Right.
of the children were, maybe 2 or 3 years old, probably usually under 10 years old. They didn't know whether, they came with their parents, right? But they go to school here. They have no idea that they are undocumented until the point where they need to, start working or go
Right.
to college. And so this program allowed them to get a work permit and work, and many of them became, very successful. But to this day, it's not permanent. So
Right.
at any time, right
Right.
now, nobody can file new DACA applications. There's a court in Texas that, there's an injunction again, and they're gonna rule on this very soon again to see what's going to be the future of the program for new applicants.
Right.
But it shouldn't be like that, right? I mean,
Right.
these people are contributing members of society. They are not criminals. Yes, they are undocumented, but if you would expect the reform to happen, I would see them to be the first group to benefit from it. But this hasn't happened to this day.
Right. And for all intents and purposes, this is really the only country they've known, like you said, for their
Right.
entirety of their lives. And so they would be deported into a country that really they're very, very foreign to themselves, right? They're kind of in a limbo legally.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, where do you send them?
Right.
And so again, just the frustration, the fact that there's no push for any reform yet. People are
Mhm.
waiting for the green cards for years. You've got clients that are waiting for 10, 12 years to get a green card, and
Wow.
they are getting frustrated. They don't want to stay here anymore.
Right.
So it's just most of the immigration system has not really been reformed since the early 90s, and some of these provisions are going back to the 70s.
Wow. I didn't know that. Oh, wow. I
Yeah.
didn't know it had been that
So
long since any kind of.
no, we haven't had a major overhaul of anything there, in 30 years.
Wow. Wow.
Even when I do visas right now for Instagram influencers or YouTubers, which we do a lot in my practice,
Mhm.
some of these visas, they're just that they don't fit.
Right.
Like, yeah, there's a talent visa, but they are asking for things that, like, they don't understand that there are measures beyond just the prize.
Right.
Where who's getting prizes anymore? Now people are focusing on, how many followers you have, how much money you're making from your social media, are you making
Right.
an impact, are you
Right.
building communities? um, and so they need to update a lot of the regulations and create special visas for entrepreneurs, which we don't have.
Right, right. And like you said, I mean, the landscape of technology business, all of it has changed in the last 30 years substantially. So the
Of course.
fact that our
Right.
immigration laws and visas have not caught up is also a big problem because, like you said, they're not going to be able to capture the businesses and the different ways of making a living that people do now.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like the system is totally outdated,
Mhm.
and what do you do about it?
Yeah. Do you see any hopeful legislation or anything that's maybe down the pipeline that you think might be positive for immigration law?
So there was a bill that was introduced about a month ago specifically for the documented DACA. So those are basically children that are currently legal. They have student visas. They are dependents of their parents. But once they turn 21, they're going to lose their status.
Right.
And so there's legislation that may address them getting some sort of a green card or permanent residency, or be able to get an extension of stay here. So I think that is something that I feel could pass because
Mhm.
it's definitely logical to have that. But
Right.
I haven't heard of anything major like we had last year, where we had almost this major bill that was going to pass under the budget reconciliation thing, and it didn't pass.
Right.
So I
Right.
think now they're kind of restarting this effort with a little piecemeal. So hopefully that this bill is going to make it.
Right. Right. I mean, I completely agree too. It'd be nice to have some positivity. I mean, I feel like the last at least 8 years, we've had kind of a lot of negativity regarding immigration, including,
Yeah.
the closure of borders and everything. I kind of wonder too how social media, what your practice kind of turned into during that period, if clients were reaching out via social media, or how did you mostly find people who were in need of
Yeah.
help? How they find
So,
you?
so for example, there is this thing with Title 42, which is a provision that was enacted in March of 2020, basically preventing people who are potentially ill to enter the United States.
Right.
But what this does, it essentially closes the country with a virtual wall, right?
Mhm.
And so this Title 42 is still on.
Right.
And this whole debate in the past few years about why do we need it? Why do we, it gives too much power to the people at the border. They just decide who's going to come in, who's going to come in, who's not
Right.
going to come in. So, social media has been really powerful because what happened is that you've got all these WhatsApp groups, you've got Instagram groups of people who are talking among themselves, saying, you know what, we heard that if you come to the border in Arizona, you'll be able to cross,
Mhm.
and they're not checking there. Because right now, before Title 42, anybody could just show up at the border and try to apply for asylum or not, or if they qualify. But now it's like, no, nobody can come.
Right.
And so social media has been really powerful, helping immigrants to make, understand, like, do we come, do we don't come? There's been a lot of positive groups say, listen, don't show up, you're going to come to the border, they're not going to let you in, it's dangerous, you've got gangs in this place. But at the same time, it also encourages people to come. And
Right.
also a lot of these groups are, like, there's a lot of attorneys who are involved in these groups. I mean, for me, during the pandemic, we started a Facebook group. Now we have, like, I think 12,000 members in there. And I think the fact that I was in social media even before the pandemic, and even today, is really important, because not only I'm able to reach more people, but also we're able to spread the message to say what is right, what is not right, what
Right.
is. So I think I'm definitely, aware of the power of social media. I mean, we have a large following, and we definitely are very aware and mindful of what we post. A lot of people are DMing us, asking questions about different things. And so
Right.
that the community we created, and also the membership, we built a membership called Immigration U, where people who cannot afford an attorney can just join and ask questions every week on Zoom
Very
for
cool.
the resident attorney who's answering the questions. So, we're definitely doing a lot of outreach, and of course, TikTok has been a really powerful tool as well, because we get
Right.
a lot of people from there who come. So I think social media for any attorney
Hmm.
is really a powerful tool, because it allows you to, instead of talking to 1 to 20 people, you can talk to thousands of people and
Right.
share your opinions and share your what you do, and it's a good way, obviously, to get clients, but also to make an impact by being able to educate.
Hmm.
So you have to, first of all, you have to be willing to spend the time to educate
Right.
people for free, because I
Right.
think the mindset of a lot of attorneys is that, well, people should pay for me for a consultation, so I'm not going to tell anything to anyone for free,
Right.
which I think is a wrong mindset,
Right.
because the more information you release, the
Hmm.
more people start to value you, to
Hmm.
trust you, and eventually they will hire you, and
Right.
you'll be able to help more people this way.
I think that's great universal advice because, a lot of attorneys may not be a good fit for a client, right away, or,
Mm.
their case. And, I'm not a big fan of charging for consultations either for that purpose. I'm like, I want to make sure I'm the right fit for you, but you're the right fit for us too,
Right.
because you just never know if that's going to be a solid fit or if you're going to be the right attorney for the job. So I think that's a great practice, but especially when you're dealing with people's entire lives and, where they can come and go. Another question I'd like to ask, because I know you've been really vocal about the Ukrainian situation and with what's going on over there with Russia. And tell me a little bit about how you got involved and where you see the current status of things.
So, a couple of weeks after the war started, we people started to show up at the borders, because they felt that Europe wasn't very safe, and so they wanted to come to the U.S.
Right.
And what happened is that, again, because of Title 42, which all the Customs Border Patrol officers, they're essentially not letting anybody in, and that was before the government allowed the Ukrainians to come.
Right.
So there was this family where the husband was a U.S. citizen from Ukrainian background. They had a child who was a U.S. citizen born in Ukraine, and the mother, who was Ukrainian, she was going through the immigration process, but she didn't get her papers yet. And
Uh,
so he decided that, you know what, I'm not gonna stay in Ukraine right now. Bombs everywhere, people are dying in the streets. I'm just gonna take my wife and child and just go back to San Diego, where he was from.
right.
And so they arrived to the border with a car. He rented a car in TJ, and they separate the wife. They detain her. She's breastfeeding a child, and he has no idea where she is for 3 days.
Oh my God.
And again, he found me through social media. I think he found me on Instagram or saw one of my posts, and he knew that I was here in San Diego. So, reach out, and I looked at the file, and so we called the border, and I happened to speak to one of the managers there, supervisors, and he's like, "Yeah, she's here, and we're not gonna let her in. We're not gonna let her go." And literally hang up the phone, and I'm like, "This is crazy." So I decided to reach out to one of my media contacts, local media contacts, because I knew that, there's nothing else we can do. And
Right.
so they liked the story. They ran the story that this is what happened, and they called immigration, and the story was released on a Thursday, I believe. By Monday, it kind of broke it became nationwide news. I had
Right.
calls from CNN, CNBC, ABC, Al Jazeera, even.
Wow.
Everybody wanted to run the story because that was one of the first stories about the Ukrainians coming to the US,
Right.
and they loved the whole emotional part. So within 48 hours after the story became on nationwide news, ICE released the girl. They just released
Wow.
her, no apology, nothing.
Oh,
Um, and so, but then I started to be more vocal about it. I was sharing updates from the border. People started to send us messages. Hey, this is what's happening here. We have family member here. And I guess to this day, media is reaching out to me to get advice and opinion
right.
about the different things. The new program that was released in April, Uniting for Ukraine, which is an online program that matches sponsors, U.S. citizen sponsors, and Ukrainian
Right.
refugees. And so, I think it's, right now they have a parole program. So if you're from Ukraine and you were there during the war, when the war started, you can come to the United States if you have a U.S. sponsor. That's
Right.
still open right now. You
Right.
get a parole for 2 years and a work permit. And so that's kind of where we stand right now. And they have benefits like refugees.
Right.
Um, but I continue to speak about it. And if the media has any questions, I'm always available about that. But it's definitely kind of crazy to see how many people are coming, and they just, the life change in less
It
than a
is.
month.
It is. And I think what's hard to see too is watching of these families. At least I thought it was heartbreaking to see all of these families all of a sudden just uprooted out of nowhere, where, one day their lives just seem completely normal. And then the next day, all of a sudden, absolute destruction. How do you talk to clients of going through that point in their lives, in immigration? I mean, how do you deal with that where it's like they leave everything behind and start with nothing again?
So, I think the most important thing with those cases is to listen to them. We typically listen to the stories. They really want to talk about it. They want to share. Like I just had a recent case a couple of days ago where this family, they got their permission to come here, but they had all these issues in Mexico. They're flying through Mexico.
Mhm.
And it's just like, you hear those stories there. Like, we were just regular people who were working in a bank, and my husband was a teacher. And next thing you know, we heard the sirens and the missiles, and then they told us there's war, and within a couple of weeks, everything shut down, no electricity. So it kind of like, you listen to the story.
Right.
I think it's really important to listen, because
Mhm.
when you listen to them, they feel that they're being heard, they're being understood, instead of like, oh, you should do this, you should do that. And even after I listen to them, the way we explain things, and say, what, this is, it's going to be a new journey for you, and thank God that you're here, because there's so many that couldn't come here. There's so
Right.
many who are trying to come here. There's so many that got killed on the way.
Right.
And so the fact that you're here is a big deal. And so, and that's important for them to also understand that. So when we say that, when we reaffirm that, they feel, and I think the whole, our practice is very kind of holistic. We are very, everybody's like very caring for the clients. We always like try to call them back. We're very,
Right.
kind of check on them, follow up. And I think the fact that when they see me on social media, they get the same person that I talk to them in real life. I'm always
Right.
saying, like, I'm listening to them. And I think that's important, because there's so many people who are not available.
Mhm.
Even if an attorney is on video, on YouTube, on TikTok, sometimes when they talk to them in a consultation, they get a very different experience. And I
Yes.
think that's the worst thing that can happen, because how disappointing it is. Like, imagine you speak to Gary Vee,
Mhm.
you see him on video, and then you talk to him in real life, and he's different. Well, he's
Right.
not different. He's the same guy, right?
Right.
And it's kind of nice, because you feel like this. Oh, it's familiar. Oh, you're the same guy that I saw you on video. You're the same crazy person,
Right.
or whatever. And for attorneys, it's really important, because when somebody actually comes to you from a video, from a radio or podcast or whatever, and they get a different experience, it's very disappointing, and they'll tell people about it. So it's very
Absolutely.
important to stay same flow, and be very understanding, and very compassionate, and just be patient with them. That's kind of how we do
Absolutely.
it.
I think that's great advice too, because, a lot of attorneys out there are starting to get and catch on with social media and everything. And it's like, be consistent with your clients, be consistent with
Yeah,
your content, because, don't bait and switch people, I
yeah,
guess
right.
is the point
Exactly.
too. Well,
Yeah.
I also would love to know what it's like all of a sudden having CNN, Al Jazeera, I mean, all of these different places calling and, talking to you about immigration or, the current status of different war zones. I mean, what's that been like for you and your practice?
So it's I mean, over the years, obviously I've been in the media, different, there are different phases. Like we had a
Right.
very big case in 2014. Before DACA, we had this young athlete that we helped her. They detained her. We kind of helped her from get her out of removal, and involved Congress people and the schools. It was a big case. It went all over the. But I think whenever that happens, it's it's just something that you feel that you can use that to spread the message. Like when CNN came here, they spent time in my house, and we were just kind of it's good to feel that you can you know spread the message, and they will take that and they will be able to share that with the world, and people will know more, especially what happened at the border here, because people didn't realize that a lot of these refugees were just camping in the border. They wouldn't let them in, and
Right.
only after the pressure of the media and only after weeks that they said, listen, Ukrainians should not be part of Title 42. They should let them in because it's a war. They
Right.
started to let them in, but they were sitting there for weeks. In fact, when CNBC and CNN went to the border after talking to me here, they saw them there. They're like, this is really where we need to emphasize the reporting, so people will see that they're
Right.
here, they're waiting in the border, nobody's talking to them, nobody's actually processing them yet, and
Right.
then they start doing that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think it's just something that is really important, specifically for in a case like that, because you
Yep.
know this is a war, and
Absolutely.
if we promise that we're going to accept Ukrainians and we don't, then it's
Mhm.
not fair.
Right. Well, and the US has a history, I think, too, that's very important regarding media, because I mean, even back in the civil rights era, as soon as the injustices were starting to unfold, showing what people of color were dealing with the police brutality, all of a sudden opinions started changing and real reform started happening. And I think that similar to that, we've got, like you said, the attention of the media down at the border, dealing with showing these people camped out. It can reach millions of people and show what these individuals are going through at the worst time in their lives, and get some action, call to action, really.
Right.
And
Exactly.
I love that. I love having TikToks and Instagram and other people out there who are like pointing light to this. And so, for attorneys out there that are interested in immigration, do you have any advice for any up and coming attorneys?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good field. I mean, I think definitely we need more immigration attorneys, because there's just so much demand for, because in immigration you can do family based, you can do removal if you want, if you like court, you
Mhm.
can do business if you like corporate stuff. So
Right.
I think the best thing to do is, maybe get some experience with a nonprofit or an immigration law firm that is already doing it,
Right.
and just kind of get your feet wet but I think it's really about somebody who's interested in world affairs, because you're going to meet people from all over the world, so you need to be open to that.
Right.
But yeah, I would say, like, get involved with nonprofits. There's so many of them in the United States who are working with refugees, with immigrants, with entrepreneurs, and kind of maybe sit on the board, maybe volunteer. And I think that would be a good way to get into that, because there you're gonna hear, oh, do you know anybody who can help me with the visa, or can help me with
Right.
whatever. So I would definitely do that if they want to be in immigration, kind of be part of some kind of organization. We work with so many, like just recently we started uh, community workshops at this huge high school, which is almost like, it's not really high school, it's like a campus where they also have adults who are learning after school, and
Hmm.
it's in a very kind of poor neighborhood in San Diego.
Hmm.
But we volunteer these workshops just to the community, so they can be educated as to what their rights are, what happens if somebody comes to
Right.
arrest them, what they should do, what they should not sign. So these are good places to do that as well. Volunteer in this kind of places, offer workshops.
Right.
then it is
Well,
what
and
it is.
I think that's really important too, because I think even a lot of Americans are under a very, very misconstrued misconception that, immigrants have no rights, because,
Yeah,
when they come in and there's like, no, you're sorry, you're not a citizen, you have no rights, which is not true.
no,
And so to be able to spread that to immigrants too, so that they know they have rights here, when they show up and enter the country. And I don't know if you've felt that with social media, having to talk to US citizens and say, hey, no, actually these individuals have some rights here, and
oh yeah,
we have to
the hate
protect them.
comments we always.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Some trolling, I'm sure.
oh, that happens a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jacob, it's been wonderful talking to you today, and thank you so much for joining us on Lawyer Interviews. And I'd love for you to tell us where we can find you on social media, if you don't mind telling us what platforms you're on.
Sure. And again, once again, thanks for having me here.
Yes.
So you can find me on Instagram at San Diego Immigration Lawyer, just one word. On TikTok, I'm SD Immigration Lawyer. And we have our website, which is simple, h1b.biz. And those are the best places to look what we do and connect with us.
Perfect. Well, Jacob, thank you again. And thank you everyone for watching Lawyer Interviews, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.